thanks again for your time. What is DeFi? What does it exactly mean, and how would it be great that we can actually explain that there is a difference between the fiat bank and the DeFi, decentralized financial or finance?
Yep. So sure. Decentralized finance is really a new way of transacting outside of the traditional banking system. So it's using the blockchain, it's using cryptocurrencies to create new services and capabilities. For example, like earning yield or taking a loan that really did not exist before. So if you think about the banks, they have certain services that they provide. It's been the same service for 30 or 50 years. Very little innovation. But in DeFi, you can basically create anything. So part of, like, for example, what Celsius did is we invented this whole idea that you can earn yield on Bitcoin. You can earn a yield on Ethereum, right? So suddenly your coins are paying you interest, and we're using those assets to issue loans and to generate income on behalf of the coin holders. So these are very important and innovative tools that give much more utility to cryptocurrencies and allow these new use cases to bring many, many more users who come for the utility, not necessarily because they think that the asset value is going up. They're not betting on the price. They're more betting on the utility, like the yield, for example.
And if you can actually explain the differences of the services and also decentralized and the centralized itself, because as it is a new word, a new buzzword, it might create a lot of confusions among the community that these DeFi services or the issuers or the product owners actually might need to require to get a license, or it's just maybe like a fiat bank, but actually it is not. So if you can also explain in that front, it would be great. It would be really great.
Sure. So you have DeFi and CeFi, decentralized finance and centralized finance, but both of them use the same tools. They use smart contracts, they use the blockchain, they use different security algorithms like MPC, multi-party computation. And basically the only difference between centralized and decentralized is that, for example, Celsius is acting on behalf of the depositor, on behalf of the party who owns the coins, and then deploying the assets into many different services. And if using the decentralized version, you have to go in, you have to know each contract, you have to make sure that it's not going to get hacked or not going to be, funds are not going to get stolen out of it. So you have to do much more work yourself instead of using a service like Celsius to basically aggregate all the different options for you. So that's really the main difference between the two, but they're both using all the same tools on the blockchain.
Perfect. And another also question is about what is the logic behind the liquidity pools, if you can also explain that.
I didn't hear the last part.
The liquidity pools?
Yeah, so if you take Uniswap as an example, basically Uniswap is alternative or replacement for centralized exchanges like Binance or Coinbase, and they're replacing the exchange which actually matches buyers and sellers, that is provided by effectively a neutral party like Uniswap, where the liquidity or the ability to match buyers and sellers and provide everybody the price is provided by LPs or liquidity providers. So what are the LPs? Any one of us can be an LP. For example, I'm personally an LP on Uniswap. Also options where you can add your assets into a Uniswap pair. For example, ETH Cell token has a pair on Uniswap. I added some assets there to create liquidity for the buyers and the sellers. And Uniswap pays me a small fee, 0.3%, every time they match somebody up. So everybody benefits. The buyer gets a better price, the seller gets a better price, and the liquidity provider gets a small fee, where normally the exchange would keep all that money to themselves. So the Uniswap is a great mechanism that kind of replaces centralized exchanges with decentralized exchanges, and everybody gets to benefit with the piece that they're trying to do, buying, selling, or earning from the liquidity.
And in terms of the withdrawal process, can you also elaborate more on that, and also the fees, the gas fees?
So there are a lot of fees, both when you get into the pool to provide liquidity, when you, for example, buy or sell. For all those transactions, you have fees. So when you do a small transaction, those fees are very, very expensive, right? If you're buying $20 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum, and your fee is $5, obviously that's extremely expensive. So one of the benefits of using centralized CeFi instead of DeFi is that because you're joining a very large pool, like the Celsius pool is $1.4 billion. So when we transact, we move tens of or hundreds of millions of dollars. We pay the same, right? We pay the same $5 fee, but it's $5 on 100 million instead of $5 on $100. So that's really the main benefit of, for example, using a CeFi platform to earn yield, in a better way,
and in terms
with
of
lower fees.
That's great. So in terms of some financial factors like liquidity, investment risks in these pools versus, for example, the exchanges.
Right. So if you work with centralized exchanges, you can get hacked. Like we saw KuCoin, we saw Binance, we saw many exchanges get hacked. And sometimes if they have enough cash, fine, they'll basically cover the loss. But if they don't have enough cash, they all get shut down, and you lose your principal. When you use Uniswap or when you use some of the other services, there's still risk, because you're still risking that the smart contract and the technology is solid. But when you're working with somebody like Uniswap that's been around for a while, or Aave, for example, which is another service that's been around for a while, they already pretty much tested all of the hackers in the world. Anyone who tried to get in there tried and failed. So it's a pretty stable platform. You still have risk of basically losing the coins, but the risk is much lower. So every platform has a risk. Every time you touch your coins, there is risk. And the question is really, who are you entrusting? Are you entrusting yourself? You're entrusting somebody like Celsius? Are you entrusting an exchange? And really, each person has to make their own decision based on their skill set and their tech savvy as to where they should be transacting.
Great. So it's actually creating another layer of security on top of the security of the blockchain itself. So it's very exciting. Earlier you mentioned about the yield. There's also these words, the buzzwords for 2020. One of them is the farming yield. So if you can also explain that, what that is, and also the impact of DeFi versus CeFi as we're moving forward for the next quarters in 20 and 21.
Sure. So farming is the process of effectively harvesting or going after yield. And before any DeFi platform, before Compound, before Uniswap, before anything, Celsius was really the first company to offer you yield in a way that you didn't really have to go and do farming. So we today, if you want to do farming, you need to know 10 different platforms. You need to know how to extract that value. So for example, sometimes it's in a way of getting free tokens. Sometimes you have to do staking. Sometimes you have to do farming. Sometimes you have to join an AMM. So unless you know all these techniques and you know that you're operating in a safe platform, what happens to a lot of people is that they jump on this or that project, and they get scammed, right? The whole project shuts down, or somebody, the originator of the project takes all the coins for himself, or whatever, or they can't withdraw the coins without some kind of a penalty, or some or paying some really hefty fees. So all these things are things that novices get caught in. And part of what we tried to do with Celsius was really basically create a very, very safe place where we select these platforms. We make sure that we only work with the safe guys. We test everything. We audit the smart contracts, and we only work with the top platform. And we give you a blended yield. We give you a yield that is a combination of us lending to institutions, working on exchanges, and doing DeFi. Put all those three together, and you still earn, like right now we paying 15.85% on stable coins, right? So you're earning an amazing yield without taking any of that risk, and all of your assets are together with 180,000 people on the Celsius platform, with no fees, no deposit fee, no withdrawal fee, no minimum, no maximum, right? So it's a very flexible environment, and you're still getting very high yield. So for the pros, if you're a pro and you know exactly what you're doing, great. Do it all by yourself. But if you're not a pro, you still get to keep 80%, because we pay 80% out every week. And you can go do your job, you can do whatever you need to do, and your money is making money while you're sleeping. And that's really the service that we pioneered. I think the DeFi world is like the hot thing, but it's hot while all these coins or tokens are being issued, right, or given for free. As all these companies, like for example Uniswap, I think there's 45 days left. So after that time runs out, the yield is going to drop dramatically. And what Celsius proved again and again is that our average yield over time is always higher than what all these guys are offering for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. So on average, you will be making more because we are always in all these platforms. But if you have the time and you don't need to sleep at all, then you can hop between this platform and that platform, and maybe make a little bit more than Celsius.
Well, that's amazing. What you explain is just like a financial heaven. I mean, imagine the rate and
Yes.
we are already, paying for the CeFi, for the financial, centralized financial industry, the current banks and everything. But obviously it would take time for us to get to that level that it is kind of like being adopted massively in the main street too. And another thing that I wanted to ask you, as you explained, the DeFi and the Uniswap, obviously services, and the future that we are actually moving forward towards this like swapping kind of like industry trading right now in the cryptocurrency, what the impact is going to be and how you guys are dealing with in terms of education, because it's massively this technology, blockchain itself, and all these like new developments are like coming very fast. It's just like a very fast pace. Obviously, it requires a lot of education. Community investors have a lot of questions. How do you deal with that on a daily basis? How do you educate your community? It is actually a huge challenge, obviously, because, aside from that, it is not in the mainstream and mainstream media too. Obviously, it's not included in any kind of like financial news, but it is happening as part of, kind of like another society among us. But like, how do you guys keep up with all these like fast-paced technological advantages and also advances, and also providing education to your communities and also investors?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think mainstream media looks at this still as a bubble or a scam or like a nascent industry that still they don't want to touch. They're like, okay, it's too dangerous or it's too unknown. And for example, in DeFi, it's mostly the same people just doing the same stuff. we are not, we as a community, crypto community, have not done a great job bringing people from the outside or educating them. So you're either on the inside and you're a Bitcoin believer, or you're an Ethereum believer, or you're some other blockchain fan, right? So we have clans inside the industry, and for example, right now most of DeFi is on Ethereum. But if you hate Ethereum, then you don't participate in that in the bubble that's being created over there. So I think like the only way this industry really grows and becomes mainstream is if we do educate and bring people from the outside and make it easy for them to be part of the community and transact. And again, that's what Celsius is trying to do. We're basically saying, look, download the app, deposit your asset. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be a pro. You don't have to 3 degrees in computer science, because we act in your best interest, right? So you don't have to worry about, there's no fees. It's not like we make a fee if you buy something or sell something or whatever. We don't make any money on any of that stuff. So we only make money if we generate yield, and we give you 80% of that. So it's a win-win. We aligned our interest with our users, and our job is to actually get as much as we can out of the DeFi platform, out of the institutions, out of the exchanges, right? They have to pay us, and we basically give the money to the party that pays us the highest interest. So if right now DeFi is paying the highest interest, we're moving assets from exchanges to DeFi. And if tomorrow institutions say, no, give me the Ethereum or give me the Bitcoin, then we will move it again. So all those things together over time create this sustainable yield. And I think a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines and looking, they're waiting. They just want to see how sustainable this is. So we've been around for 3 years. We've paid interest every Monday for 3 years. We turned the worst day of the week, Monday, to the best day of the week, So because people are making, we created 30 millionaires already, right? People who basically earned yield with us and, and made over $1 million just from the appreciation of either the Cell token or the other assets they gave us. And I think when you create these success stories and you celebrate them, that's where a lot of other people want to join, right? Other people look at us and say, wow, this is a real person. I know this guy. Yeah, he joined Celsius when Cell token was $3, 3 cents. It's now $1, over $1, right? It's up 1,800% in the last 12 months. Gosh, if I just jumped on it, well, it's not too late, right? I mean, we have limited supply. We can manage 10 billion or 50 billion or 100 billion. There's no limit here. So I think as we prove that all of this value creation is mostly collected by the community or accepted by the community, that's when a lot of people from the outside are going to join and trust the platform, right? That's really what the hardest part is, because it takes a lot of time to convince people to trust you with their money, especially in the crypto industry.
Right. So it's just the continuation of the project every day, the team, and obviously how hard you're working on. The last question that I have is, so what are your predictions for the rest of the year? And how do you think that, for example, like all these like Uniswaps, SpaceSwap, sushi swaps type of companies are going to be growing or appearing for the next year, or even like the rest of the industry? Do you think that it's kind of like something sustainable in the meanwhile, or is it going to grow? And yeah, your kind of like predictions for this year.
Yeah. So my prediction for Bitcoin and Ethereum are that they both serve different purposes. Bitcoin is more of like a doomsday, and we are between the election and all the money printing and everything else. I think more and more people are going to be basically buying Bitcoin as a safety haven. Ethereum is much more of you're betting on things like DeFi, for example, and smart contracts and so on. So I think Ethereum has a very high chance of being the winning blockchain. But again, we don't pick winners or losers. We have 35 different assets in the wallet. Our customers decide what they like. We just earn yield on it. So, but I'm a big supporter of Ethereum, because I think most of the development or most of the experimentation in this Cambrian explosion of innovation is happening on the Ethereum platform. So, and DeFi specifically, look, all these things are copycat. I mean, Sushi Swap is a copycat of Uniswap, and there's 100 copycats, right? So, but the problem is that you think you jumped on copy number 90 and you're going to make money there, and they change the code and they have ability to grab your coins, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be the first guy on whatever, Onion Swap, or I don't know what, you know, like Chicken Swap. Doesn't matter what it's called.
Space.
Space Swap, exactly. The chances are higher and higher that you are going to get yourself in trouble. And that's why I'm saying to people, you have to be very careful and definitely do not play with money you can't afford to lose, right? If this is your life savings, or if this is your last dollar, I would not put it into any of these platforms, right? So the challenge for a lot of these people is really that it looks great, the yields are amazing, right? You can make a lot of money, but when the music stops, everything disappears. So it's obviously not sustainable that 100 companies are going to generate whatever 1,000% returns, and everybody going to walk away with all that money. So sooner or later, the music is going to stop, and the long-term sustainable companies are going to do well, and all of the pretenders, all the people who are here, all the tourists are going to have to go back from crypto land to fiat land, you know?
That's great. Any last words?
So look, the crypto industry is probably the best place to be in right now. COVID actually, if anything, like our revenues, our deposits, our customers are up 300% since March, meaning we're accelerating dramatically because people are moving faster into the digital world. So it's a great place to be in. So if you're kind of sitting on the sidelines and you're not sure, or you're looking at this and you're saying, you know, it's not safe yet, don't put all your money there. Take $100 or whatever you can afford to lose and start playing with all the different CeFi, DeFi, Onion Swap, Cucumber, Sushi Swap. It doesn't matter what you play with. I mean, obviously, again, there are some stable projects and some not stable, but the experimentation itself will teach you some stuff about it, and see what other people are saying about it as well. Sorry?
In terms of the Uniswaps and the space swaps and all these like new swaps, it's still good because it's a next step ahead of what we were before.
Yes, it's innovation, it's experimentation, and yep. So it's all good for the community.
Higher yields, better investment, even as you said, even if you're not sure that you want to get into crypto or not, at least these are the experimentations that you can do.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. Have a great day.